All right, good evening, everybody, and welcome in here to Detroit Sports Talk on the Fifth Chapter, presented to you by CashToBitcoin.com. I'm Dennis Fithian, and I'm joined by Adrian Myers, and you see him on the screen as we're ready to kick this thing off on an exciting Thursday night. Adrian, I could start yelling and screaming right off the bat, but I thought I'd go with the nice low-key entry and saying, "What's up, man? How are you?"
I'm good, Dennis. How you doing?
I'm doing great, man. It's I didn't like the basketball game last night. We were just talking about that before we, hit the live and the big red light went on and everything. But we will be talking about that in our upcoming chapter. But I didn't think this week would be here. I don't want to make it sound like it's the most special week of all time, but I wasn't anticipating, what happened this past Saturday and then this upcoming Saturday and how it could be a gift that keeps giving here, where the excitement could continue all the way to maybe New Year's Eve. So. It's a little bit where I'm pinching myself, like, man, you're a Michigan football fan. You've been waiting for a long time, and I've been enjoying the afterglow.
Listen, my brain couldn't function it or process it, and when it happened, I still didn't think we went into the game hit 4-0, and I still was just in shock, just trying to imagine what this feeling would be like finally after 10 years of just getting our butts kicked. So. Last time they beat them, I was in high school, so that tells you how long ago that was.
Yeah, that was a long time ago. The last time that they won a Big Ten championship was 2004. I remember that, game day. Well, Mike Hart was a part of the. Was he around in 2004? They were putting up a game day, a picture of Miley Cyrus, when she was 6 years old or something. I was like, wow, this is a long time ago, and that was a few years ago that they were doing that, but. We'll roll those chapters out. We'll get them to you. We do want to tell you about CashToBitcoin.com as we take a look and tell you about our book. They are our title sponsor. We love them, CashToBitcoin.com. And you've thought about it. Adrian's thought about it. We've all thought about it. People talk about cryptocurrency. Now I'm here to tell you how to do it. You go to CashToBitcoin.com. There's a lot to be excited about, like Cade and Casey and crypto. And did you know that CashToBitcoin.com is the official cryptocurrency of the Detroit Red Wings? That's right. And CashToBitcoin.com is one of the fastest and largest growing crypto ATMs in Michigan. They have hundreds of locations in Michigan and beyond. Check out the map. You can find a crypto ATM near you at CashToBitcoin.com on Twitter. That's cash, the number 2, Bitcoin.com. So get it going. Find an ATM and check it out. Now is the time, folks. Remember it and use it. That is CashToBitcoin.com.
All right, Dennis. How you feeling about this championship Saturday? Because I know you didn't think that we would be here.
Well, let's start there with that chapter 1, and that is the championship Saturday. I'm feeling fantastic. In years past, 2016, I was going to say 2015. I thought that I took it off, but I remember that Michigan State beat Iowa, the Iowa Hawkeyes, and they had this great, multi-play drive right down to the end, and they scored the touchdown. I mean, it was a fabulous drive. I'd guess it was 15 plays or something like that. But I remember I was on the air the whole day, the next day, 4 hours by myself, and I'm like, wow, man, are Michigan State fans going to call and talk about this game, or am I going to be a Michigan fan here and just say, oh, I guess we're going to talk about something else? And now I've talked about Michigan State football, and everybody was really happy to talk about that game. But in 16 and 18, I put in for a vacation day and a weekend so I could get down just in case, Michigan won that game. And then it didn't happen. And I would drive down to see my dad, who lives in Arkansas. And on the way down, you have to go through Indianapolis, and you can see it from 20 miles away. Lucas Oil, there you're driving, and get all the signs too, Lucas Oil, next exit. I'm like, no, not this year. And I'd drive right past, and wave to it both back and forth. But this year they're headed there. So that part is exciting that they're going to be there at 8:00. I love how the Saturday sets up. There's always a lot of talk, and there continues to be. I'm not saying it's a perfect Saturday where it's New Year's Day back in the old days, where people it was like college football all day, and everybody's reserving their entire day to watch football. But it's not half bad. And what we have right now with Michigan being involved, and if you're a Michigan fan, of course, it's great.
I couldn't ask for nothing better. Now I'm happy you and Brian I believe went from Michigan last week, and I picked against somebody. It's tough for me
I
to do
picked
that,
against
but
him too. I picked against him too.
okay, yeah, me and you picked against them. But listen,
I did like
I
the
said,
points though. I did. I mean,
you did
I don't
take
know
the
if I get a small amount of credit for that or not.
you do take the points. For me, this might have been you like being right most of the time. You always like being right, but this was probably the happiest I've ever been knowing that I was wrong, and I asked for nothing better. I probably lost my voice like halfway through that game on Saturday. I could not sit down for anything. I had to drink some tea during the game because I was losing and my voice was kind of raspy. But a couple quick thoughts on the game. I was very impressed with the ability of the offensive line, and Michigan has found their identity, and they did not go away from it. And one thing that was a key in this game from past games and past games that Harbaugh struggled in to beating good teams and winning clutch games is the ability to take his foot and put it on the gas and do not let up. Honestly, Michigan drove on the first drive. Then the next drive, Cade ended up throwing an interception and down the middle of the field, which he has not done a great job this year of throwing the ball down the middle. They haven't asked him to do that a lot. But if that wouldn't have happened, I think Michigan would have steamrolled Ohio State. Just the ability and the confidence, and I haven't seen the big house rocking like that in a long time. But thank God for Aiden Hutchinson and David Ajabo. That's one thing as a Michigan fan, I am grateful for because they caused nothing but havoc. And some of the keys to the game I talked about was the ability for Michigan to have ball control, but also finish in the red zone with touchdowns. Stop that offense, no big plays, and just make them drive, which they did. Stroud had almost 400 yards passing, but who cares? He had to do a lot, and even that play towards the end when he threw the touchdown to Travion Henderson, Aiden Hutchinson was about 2 inches away from knocking that ball down on fourth down. But I like the fight from this team. The only thing I'm concerned about heading into this game against Iowa is a letdown, because Iowa's offense isn't that good, but Michigan has to come to play again. But I'm excited. I haven't been this excited in a long time as a Michigan football fan, and it is a great feeling.
Yeah, I think all the things that you say there, the stadium, it used to be when people would talk about Michigan Stadium that they'd always say, well, I never heard 110,000 people, as quiet, as 110,000, and they'd always knock it. But almost universally, like you said, they talked about just the great atmosphere. I think snow played into, of course, Ohio State, being a rivalry and then the way Michigan played. But I think that if you declared that was the best atmosphere for a Michigan game, like Matt Leinart and Joel Klatt, there's Klatt's a Colorado guy, Leinert's a USC guy. They both said it was the greatest atmosphere they've ever seen. So I think, with those guys, everybody else and the circumstances, I feel pretty comfortable saying it was the greatest atmosphere. It was one of the greatest wins, Michigan ever had. I get the letdown thing here because it was such a big deal. I liked how Jim Harbaugh came out and said way back in 1980 when the United States hockey team beat the Russians, and then 3 days later, they had to play for the gold medal game against Finland where, the whole United States is like, it's over. We won the gold medal. It's like, no, you actually have to go play Finland. And that's kind of the same thing. They have to go out there. But I don't know, like all of the talk about like the senior leadership and, how they go out, they want to have perfect practices and they turn the page, all of these things. They've said it all year long. And a lot of that stuff seems like coach speak and player speak. But, I heard it again this week, how they're, focusing in on Iowa. And you know what? They are playing for that championship, something they haven't had since 2004. If this was some, mid-season or non-conference slate game against, some like number one team or something they won, and then next week they were playing a team that they were a double-digit favorite, I think, that letdown factor would be there. But considering the stakes here, I think that they're going to be ready to play and good to go. And if they play their game, Iowa is number one in interceptions in all the NCAA, and they're pretty good yards per carry. I looked in the Power Five; they're top 7. They're top 5 in yards per carry rush defense, which plays right into what Michigan tries to do. So they can stop the run and they get a good defense. But I think Michigan here, they haven't really turned the ball over, and they can throw the ball a little bit too. But I think it's going to be a tight game. We'll make our predictions coming up in with Prediction Pete. Finelli, who's back in Penn State getting all those predictions ready, when he should be working on his finals and everything. But he's like, I'm working on the prediction segments. Like, oh, okay. Well, we'll get that going. But no, I feel pretty good about 8 o'clock at Lucas Oil coming up this Saturday.
How about this too, though? Also, I gotta, like I said, once again, I gotta give a shout out to that offensive line, proving to be one of the best in the country. And also finally, and I've been bashing them all year. I've been really hard on them, but Josh Gaddis did a phenomenal job in that game with the play calling. He emptied the kitchen sink pretty much and just threw everything at Ohio State, and that's one of the best game plans I've seen in a long time from a Michigan team. And the confidence is there. I think this is probably the most mentally tough team I've seen in the Harbaugh era, maybe besides the 2016 team that just couldn't finish. But I think they're playing their best football right now when it matters most. And I think they're going to come in confident in Indy. And it might be close with Iowa early because they play ball control, but there's nothing special about them. I think they're just below average. Their tackles are not that great. Their center, I think his name's Tyler Lindenbaugh.
Yeah.
He's elite, but those tackles are going to get abused by a Jabon Hutchinson, and you can let everybody else do the rest. I'm not threatened by their passing game whatsoever. I think they got a tight end. I can't remember his name, but that's really who they throw the ball to. And Goodson's not bad, but I think Michigan can, contain that offense and just get a couple explosive plays.
Yeah, I like Tyler Goodson. I think he's the wild card for the Hawkeyes there. And you're right. Like they're pretty pedestrian offensively. So go out there, considering that you've got over this gigantic hurdle and it's a $1 million monkey off your back and everything else. But now that you're sitting here and you look at Cincy or you look at Iowa, and then you can look beyond at the playoffs and you can see like it's not even that threatening. Like when Michigan State went there in 2015, they had to play Alabama, the Derrick Henry Alabama team, and nobody was beating. Like if this Michigan team was playing that Alabama team, you'd be like, come on, they're not going to beat them. But even Georgia's got a great defense, but I'm not predicting that Michigan's going to, if they had to play Georgia in the first round, that they'd beat the Dogs. I got to wait and see about everything else. But the other three, like if it was Oklahoma State or Notre Dame or Cincinnati, or Michigan will be favored in most of those games, and so everything is the dark, and it's kind of like it's black and white TV. It's kind of like this old movie that was made in the 30s, Adrian, Wizard of Oz. It's like all in black and white, and then they hit the yellow brick road. And everything's color and everything's fantastic. Mm. But you got to keep going down that brick road. You got to be able to beat Iowa, and then it's just 3 weeks of pandemonium, until New Year's Eve.
I think is this whole scenario of how the college football playoff is shaping right now, especially right now with Michigan being 2. I think it's shaping up perfectly for them. I'm going to give you my quick 4 what I think it's going to end up being. I believe it's going to be Georgia 1, us Michigan 2, Cincinnati 3, and then Oklahoma State 4. So take it be that you could play Cincinnati, or you could play Oklahoma State in the national semifinal, which I think they'd be favored over any one of those teams. And then come on, bring Georgia on. I do think Georgia, we'll get to that later, but I think Georgia is the best team in the country right now. But I would give Michigan a fair shot at winning that game if they got into that game. But it's setting up perfect for them at least to get to the national championship game, something we haven't seen. So I'm pretty confident right now if they take care of business on Saturday, we'll have a lot to be excited about.
A lot of feedback. You see Beth's feedback there. I talked about this on Tuesday, and I've got feelings on this. Is that crazy? Beth saying Aiden Hutchinson for Heisman. Is that just Michigan? And Beth's a Michigan State fan.
I don't think
there's
crazy.
A chance that could happen.
I don't think it's crazy. Being this year it's a really weird year for the Heisman. Nobody's really took control of it. Even I think Bryce Young is in the leader. Is in the leader poll right now to win the Heisman, and if they beat Georgia on Saturday, then I think the Heisman is his. But let's give some of these defensive players credit: Aiden Hutchinson, Will Anderson from Alabama. Even give Kenneth Walker a little bit of credit for Michigan State. Had a phenomenal year, so it could go a lot of different places right now. Saturday's going to tell a lot of what's going to happen. If Aiden Hutchinson comes out and gets 3.5 sacks, maybe 4, then hey, he needs to be invited to New York.
Yeah, I think you're right on top of it. I'd also put Jordan Davis, the Godzilla defensive tackle, 99 there from the Dogs, right in the middle. He's been their most outstanding player. It's not been Stenson Benton or whatever, the QB. It's definitely the leader on defense there. But I think most times it does go to the quarterback on one of the playoff teams. So if Young comes out there, he wasn't all that good actually against Auburn, but he did have the final drive where he was good. And, finishing up like that, a lot of people are, like, okay. And I agree. He is the leader in the clubhouse right now. But if the dogs go down there and snuff him out, like, am I going to give the Heisman Trophy to a guy? And then if Hutchinson comes over the top and have some amazing plays and, sacks and pressures and all this, I think it could be a sneaky backdoor or whatever else, another Michigan defensive player winning the Heisman. I think that could happen too. Let's go for more feedback. I've got another question before we move on here for you.
Okay.
Myself. Let's see if anybody else is covering it. David said 1-5 against OSU is nothing to celebrate. I'm glad Harbaugh got over the hump, though. Well, I'll tell you this, David. Like, he was 0-5. He would have been 0-6 last year if they would have played. They might have been able to put 100 points up on him, but it's one of those things to me. I look at it like if I was in charge, I would have moved on. Matt Campbell would be the head coach at Michigan right now. They stuck with him, and I look at the incredible story here. Like, most people were like me. They had given up on Jim Harbaugh. So, yeah, I mean, the 16 was sad. 18 was terrible. 16 points. I mean, there looked to be no end in it. But when you finally do turn it around and everything and you get that win, it's right now it's still like a little bit of a joy shock here about just how incredible it is. But, people talking about nothing to celebrate, it's a lot to celebrate. If you spend 5 years in the desert, you don't have anything to drink, and suddenly somebody hands you a big glass of water, man, that thing tastes pretty good, David. Really good.
We should get used to the ability of being able to maybe not beat Ohio State every year, but be consistent with it and showing some type of competitiveness for this. So this also elevates Michigan if they continue to beat Ohio State. This helps in recruiting big time. There's a lot of big recruits at that game as well, and a lot of people don't focus on that, but this is going to elevate them to get back in that top 10, top 5 recruiting class and just keep, momentum is crazy. So I think this win has propelled Michigan to a lot of momentum, and I see good things. And I was wrong for sure, just like you, Dennis. I wanted Harbaugh gone 2 years ago. I can admit when I was wrong, so they stuck by him. I think cutting his salary is the one thing that really played dividends. And then also hiring Mike McDonald from Baltimore. Nobody knew who he was coming in, and he's done a tremendous job with that defense, being able to have multiple looks and changing it up and getting these guys in the right position and playing a lot better than just crazy blitz and Don Brown. So there's a lot of scheme changes, a lot of just adjusting, getting younger on the coaching staff, doing things in order to exuberate some energy into that program and give us some life. And with this win, it has definitely put us in a great position to be on a national level once again, where we've wanted to be for the last 15, 20 years.
Yeah, I will give David this. Like, if they don't finish this off on Saturday with a Big Ten championship, I think it will leave a sour taste. And I think there will be a lot of off season where you're like, well, okay, it was nice. But if they do get the win, like what you're talking about recruiting, like we're talking about Michigan all the time right now, ESPN stuff, everybody's talking about, Michigan in the college football playoff. And if they do win Saturday, that's only going to be, exponentially talked about all the way up to New Year's, every show. Michigan, Harbaugh, and, David, if you think you're sick of it now, just wait till they get a W on Saturday. You'll really be sick of it because it'll be nothing that you're going to sit around talking about the Lions, or something. If you're in Detroit, it's going to be all Michigan all the time. So I can get, like, if you're a state fan or something, you're like, whoa, boy, tap the brakes and all this. But Michigan fans are going to be delirious, and it can, that part of every time, you just picture yourself and you're like, 14, 15 years old, and you're watching TV every 5 minutes, and you see the winged helmet, it's just like, wow, man, Michigan's new, Michigan's fresh, and what a story about them sticking with their coach and, them turning it around. Super Raciti's even ready to talk about this game here. He wants to be clear. I said Michigan and Michigan State would defeat Ohio first, and I said it on this show. Super Raciti, the inner city sports analyst. All right, he did think Michigan State was going to beat Ohio State. That's where he lost. That's where he lost one of his pizzas. There for sure, Raciti. And now he's talking about the Rose Bowl. Who do you believe will be there? Well, the Rose Bowl, it depends on what's going to happen on Saturday. We don't want to talk about, like, Michigan could go to the Rose Bowl, but you don't want Michigan to go to the Rose Bowl because that means they would be losing. You want Michigan to go to the Cotton Bowl, I think is where we're at
I
as we
believe
sit here right now.
if Rasidi was as asking about that, I believe it'll be Michigan State probably versus Oregon, which I believe will beat Utah on Saturday. So maybe something like that combination right there.
Yeah, and that'll be nice. Michigan State, the Rose Bowl's great on New Year's Day to sit back at around 5:00, and it's the entire window by themselves, and having the Spartans in there and Kenneth Walker, there in the backfield, see what he's able to do. That'll be pretty cool. And maybe the Lions, if it's not Hutchinson, maybe Thibodeau will be playing in that game, the defensive end. So a lot of nice storylines on that. I wanted to ask you, last year, I remember one of the national college football guys, it was Dan Wetzel from Yahoo Sports.
Yeah, okay.
He said, Saturday's fine and everything. And he was talking about last year. He said, but what if there was a 12-team playoff and it did start like on this Saturday? And I just looked at the college football playoff standings before we came on. And so you'd have Georgia, who's number 1, and number 12 is BYU. So that would be the first game, and that would be in Athens. If you look do you know who's number 2 and 11? Who would be the matchup there?
I believe we're 2. I believe 11 would be.
It's Michigan State. It would be Michigan and Michigan State in Ann Arbor. I mean, so would you crazy. Like? Yeah, I don't know. So Kenneth Walker had 5 touchdowns. Michigan had problems with the tempo and personnel and all these things, but this game would be different, as it would be in Ann Arbor. The theory goes also that it's tough to beat a team 2 times in a row. I don't know if Michigan would maul, and they're not playing, so it's really easy to say, oh yeah, Michigan kill them, or State could do it again. But I'd be down to, I'm excited to see Michigan play Iowa, but I'd be down for a rematch of Michigan State if they had a college football playoff and the first round was at the higher seed site.
I'd take that in a heartbeat, just because Michigan's a better team than they were when they played them there in that time. I believe they'll take advantage of some of those matchups, and they definitely beat Michigan State, because they're just realizing as the season goes on. I didn't realize Michigan State's pass defense was horrendous. Like, it just got worse through the season, but I just feel like Michigan would put their foot on the gas and not let up. They learned a lesson from that Michigan State game compared to the Ohio State game, because I tweeted about it during the game, and I was really nervous when they got up 15, and I was like, oh no, here we go again. Hopefully they don't blow this lead and they prove me wrong. So, but I would love to see that, definitely. But we'll get 12 teams here in the next few years. I believe they're going to have to.
There's picking Penn State Pete down there in the bottom of the screen, who's he's got his studies over on the right side. He's got his handicapping over here on the left as he's getting ready for the pick'em. Pete, Penn State, for the majority of the year, they were in that college football playoff rankings, like the initial one, and they just kept drop right up. So they kind of dropped off. I hate to, I bring you in, and then we just kind of feel like we, bash you over the head with, Penn State football.
Yeah, look, it's frustrating, and I would have loved to see Penn State compete for a spot in the college football playoffs, but you know what? They would, if the way they're playing right now, even if they had pulled out some of those games and maybe gotten a spot, maybe if it was a 12-team playoff and they squeeze in there, the way they're playing, they're not winning. They wouldn't have won anything. So I'm fine moving on next year. We'll see how that goes. We'll have a lot of new personnel on the team, but before we go into chapter 2, I wanted to bring up a quick point. I know we were talking about riding too high on Michigan, and especially David in the comments was saying like, oh, they beat Ohio State, like, all right, cool, like that's great and all, but you're right, you're taking this too far. I want to talk about Iowa real quick, who, like I said too in the comments, like they're not the team that they were. Like, yeah, they turned it around. They had a couple losses. They turned around. They ended the season 4-0, but the first 5 games they were winning by an average of 21.6 points. They played Penn State, probably should have lost that game. Ended up squeezing it out. They lost to Purdue. They lost to Wisconsin, and then they finished 4-0. But those last 4 games, they only won by an average of 6.75 points. And none of the teams that they played throughout the entire season, none of them finished in the top 25. So it's not like, oh, they played significantly better teams at the end. Like, yeah, slightly better, but not any top 25 teams.
Nice points.
Food for
Good
thought.
points.
I'm with you on
Absolutely.
that. You know, they didn't play Ohio State. They didn't play Michigan State. Now
Right.
they're going to play Michigan. So
The West is a lot weaker than the East.
no
I
question.
don't-
Rashidi
I
want to
don't know
know
how
what
the
your
West-
name is, Adrian. It's Adrian Myers.
It's Adrian Myers. You can follow me on Twitter or CD. I'll add you on there, so you'll find me on there. But the thing with Iowa is Iowa fans are driving me nuts because they're screaming and yelling about being number 2. Your boy Clifford got hurt in that game. We all know they would have won that game if he doesn't exit that game, and I think that was the turning point to your guys' season, him being hurt. But
Oh yeah, absolutely.
this Iowa team, I just think is always vastly overrated every year, and they play in. You gotta give me a joke, man. Come on, the West, the Big Ten West is an absolute joke. Look at you have Purdue, Nebraska, Minnesota, Wisconsin. Give me a break, man. Wisconsin was on I believe a 7-game winning streak, and everybody always hypes them up every year. But look at their schedule. So it doesn't prepare them to face like the teams like a Michigan or a Penn State or a Michigan State or Ohio State. So that's where the East always dominates. And let's get Rutgers and Nebraska out of here, by the way, but because it's pathetic. But these teams in the East will continue to dominate the conference for as long as it's around as a line just like this. But I just like to be a little humble with Michigan because I still want them to come in there with absolute focus and be able to take care of business and not let their foot off the gas.
I like the humble approach. And Pete, we don't have to sit here and talk about college football the whole time. We can move to chapter 2 where we can get to your Steelers along with the Lions.
No.
Oh, I'm sorry.
God. Oh, God.
That does. And Adrian's introduced in chapter 2 for us.
All right, fellas, we're on to chapter 2, which means we will talk about NFL. We're already at week 13. This is crazy, fellas.
Fantasy playoffs coming up soon.
I'm number 1 in both my leagues. So where would you guys like to begin? Pete, do we want to talk about the Steelers or do we want to talk
I think so.
Lions?
You know what? You guys are both Steelers guys. With the Lions, we're going to get to them. They do have a game against the Vikings, but you know what? I was on the Steelers kind of sneaky this year. I wasn't buying that. It was over for Roethlisberger, but this past weekend when they took on Cincy and the Bengals just smacked them around from start to finish, man, that game was over fast, Jesus. Man. They couldn't stop anything going on there. I don't know. Pete, let's start with you. It's your Steelers.
Tee off, Pete, please.
I mean, oh my God, I don't even know. Like, I get the team is injured crazy. That D-line, they've been missing Stephon Tuitt, Tyson Alualu the entire year. That's a killer. Minka has been hurting. Hayden's been hurting. That defense especially has been brutal. Devin Bush coming back from ACL. But I don't know. I don't know what to say. I mean, Ben is awful this year. There was hope that he'd come back for one last season. With you get Najee Harris, you get a run game going, you got a new tight end with Pat Freiermuth, and they just haven't shown up. There was the first week against the Bills, and everyone was like, "Oh wow, this might actually happen." Like, we beat Buffalo, like they're a legit team, and it's been downhill all since then.
You need a quarterback. What are you going to do, Adrian? Where are you going to get your quarterback from?
Listen, this is really far-fetched, and I'm going to go out here because I've heard through the grapevine that Mike Tomlin has said that he does not want a rookie quarterback or a really young quarterback. So, with that being said, the draft this year is not going to be really strong on quarterbacks. I know teams are going to reach. So their best bet is to have to go after a proven veteran quarterback. Maybe this is a pipe dream, but a Russell Wilson. My pipe dream would be Aaron Rodgers. I know you've been thinking the same thing, Pete, but
absolutely,
he loves Mike Tomlin, so he wants to get out of Green Bay. This will be his last year in Green Bay. Even if he doesn't come to us, I can see him going to Denver. But that's what I would want in a fantasy land. We'll see if it happens. But a couple takes on this team away from this game. The Steelers had a plan coming into the season that we're solely going to focus on the defense because we already knew this offense was going to be bad. But you got injuries to TJ Watt. Melvin Ingram didn't work out. Devin Bush is a shell of himself right now. The ACL is hurting him. Joe Hayden's been out with the foot injury. Minka has to cover up for all these faults. That's why he doesn't have the gaudy stats that you would like to see. Tyson Alualu got hurt. Buggs is not that good. We're starting Henry Mondo at defensive tackle. That's not going to get the job done. I'm sorry, Arthur Marlette's not the guy. It's a lot of deficiencies right now, and it's not working for this team. And the biggest, like Dennis said, the biggest fault, and I've said it for the last 2 years, is Ben Roethlisberger has to go. This reminds me of the New York Giants and Eli Manning situation, falling right down the same rabbit hole. And the Steelers knew this was coming, and now they're just late to the party once again because they do not want to hurt his feelings. This is a business. You have to do what's best for the franchise, which they're not right now. They're only hurting themselves. And you look at this division with the Lamar Jackson, the Joe Burrow. Even Baker's better than Ben right now. I hate to even admit that. And, it can go up and down. He's hurt, but they're just not in the position right now to be an elite team without even a solid quarterback at this point in time.
Yeah, the hard part about and those quarterbacks, Russell Wilson and Aaron Rodgers would be great, but neither of those guys aren't free agents, so you're going to have to cough up a lot. It was like our conversation before the season about getting Deshaun Watson. It's like, all right, maybe if he's able to get in the clear or whatever else with his personal issues and the league issues and all that, but you got to give up so much to get those guys. Rodgers seems like he can basically just get 1 star and he can do it, so maybe it'd be him, but.
I think Rodgers is a free agent after this year.
I believe he restructured his contract. Then it's to be a free agent if he wants to.
I think you got to give something up for him. I don't think he's a free agent.
We gotta check.
Well, you know what? Hey, if he's just a free agent and you can bring him in, that would be the greatest move of the world.
That would be fantastic.
We can look at that. I'm not saying that I thought that they did kick the can and they said they were going to revisit it next year, and there was some restructuring and all that, but. I think the Pack is not just letting him go scot-free. I think they're going to get something for him.
Before we move to the Lions, real quick, I want to David's got a comment saying that the Steelers need to give Haskins a look, which I totally agree with. And I want to ask you, Adrian, at what week do you think they bring in Haskins?
Right now, immediately. Ben needs to walk into Tomlin's office right now and tell Tomlin, hey, I'm done. Because Tomlin doesn't want to do it. He's not going to do it. Ben's going to have to. He's going to have to show some responsibility and be like, I'm done. I'm washed. I need to sit on the bench. I mean, worst case, listen, I'm going to tell you, Pete, I don't want to see Mason Rudolph. I don't want to see him. So what's the worst? Play Haskins. We're not going to beat the Ravens anyways. So why not? Give him a look, give him a shot and see what he's got. Worst case, he doesn't work. It's on a non-guaranteed contract. Let's throw him out there. He can throw the ball down the field. I'll tell you that. And hey, Claypool needs to be quiet too, by the way. He's on the field yapping, and he hasn't done anything. We're getting blown out. And I wish we would have kept Mike Hilton, but I'm gonna just leave it at that because I could go on a rant and keep going on about these Steelers right now. It made me sick. I had to turn the game off Sunday. It was disgusting.
You know what? Let's move on to Detroit. What this whole show is actually about.
Yeah, well, we can tie it up because we did see the Steelers and we did see Mason Rudolph at quarterback against the Lions. So you guys know what he brings to the table. That was that 16-16 joyous tie that we all put ourselves through on that particular Sunday afternoon. That game ended up going almost to like 5:00, which was pretty amazing. But the Lions since then, so they tied. They got the tie, so they weren't going to go 0-17. But it was a 13-10 game against the Browns, and it was a. What was it, 16-14 on Thanksgiving against the Bears. So they've been in these games, and now they take on the Vikings, a team that beat them in Week 5. Remember, it was Week 3. You were at the game against the Ravens, right? The 66-yard field goal?
I was there, yep.
Adrian,
I was there.
And so then it was Week 5 that they lost on a 54-yard field goal as the time ran out against the Vikings here. And that was at Minnesota. So they've been playing close games. They played a close game at Minnesota. I know they're 7-8 point underdog here. It feels like they got some kind of chance. I don't know. Do you feel like they're gonna go winless on the season here? That's the question we ask every week. I know Pete has money on the Falcons will be the one that'll end up going down. But where are you at, Adrian? You think they're gonna get a win here somewhere?
And I'm really trying to in my head process this. It is so hard to go winless in the NFL. Like I said last week, you could easily trip into one win in the NFL. I don't care how bad you are. But at this moment in time, I believe they will go winless.
Whew.
I don't think these players are buying into Dan Campbell's philosophy and some of these stupid bonehead decisions he makes every week, including taking over the play calling. But a real quick hot take, and I'll let Pete take off from this. And I'm going to say this really harshly, and I'm going to mean it, and I hate to do it, but I don't care. If I was the Lions organization, I was running this team, if he goes winless this year, he needs to go. I'm sorry, one and done. And Steve Wilkes, Al Gore. I don't care. He needs to go. Al Gore. I'm sorry. He coached the Jets back in the day. But this man cannot be the coach if they go win this, because you seen no improvement from this team. Everybody is not buying in. So with that, Pete, I'll let you go.
As much as I understand where you're coming from with, like, yeah, he didn't win a single game, fire the head coach. The problem with that is I don't know what head coach would really be doing much more with this team. I mean, like, yeah, you could have Belichick coaching that team. You could have Andy Reid coaching that team, and maybe they would have pulled off one or two of those wins. But in reality, like, this team just has nothing going for them offensively or defensively. There's just nothing, and coaching can only do so much. I think this guy, I think Campbell wants to win, and I know he's been a bit lionized through the course of the season, but he wants to win. I think you give him a few pieces and you will see improvement, but there are no pieces. You don't even have DeAndre Swift this week, and he's by a mile your best player on that team.
I wish there was I know Aiden Hutchinson and Kayvon Thibodeau are sitting there as like the prize for being number one overall, but we're not sitting here talking about, Trevor Lawrence is going to be awesome, if they do end up doing this. But I know how Lion fans also think, like, somewhere along the line, like, let's just say, like, they beat Minnesota, it wouldn't be the craziest thing. It also wouldn't be the craziest thing to see them, like, somehow beat the Dirty Birds or beat the Falcons. And then on the last game of the season, the Packers are resting everybody because they've already clinched the North, and the Lions win that one and somehow fall to third or something in the draft standings. I mean, that's how Lion fans are thinking right now. So as much as they might want to get a W here, they don't want to get too many W's. So,
you were saying they could beat the Packers if they rest everybody. So then they'd be going against Jordan Love right now. Would you rather have Jordan Love for the Lions right now?
I would, for sure.
Or look ahead to the future for a draft replacement for Goff.
Well, I don't. You know what? Jordan Love didn't look good at all against the Chiefs. I can say that. But I mean, it's just one game, and you can't take everything. Although he did not look prepared. Like, it was not you'd like to see some flashes or something, and there were no flashes in that game. If I was a Packers fan, I'd be like, whoa, this is our guy here. I'd be very uneasy about that.
You understand why Rodgers was so pissed that they traded up to draft that guy in the first round.
Which he should have every right to be. They could have got him another receiver.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah, so maybe he wouldn't be on the way out after the year.
So, Dennis, I got two scenarios I want to throw you and Pete's way, okay? So, the Lions are in this situation right now. They have Goff for probably another year. So, let's say we're Lions fans. They're watching the Rams play right now. We all know the Rams are playing like garbage right now. So, if you're a Lions fan, you're rooting for the Rams to continue to lose. So that
no question
could get even better for you. So, here's my thing. Are you going to just take an edge rusher at 1, or that's a top, I'm going to just go out 15 pick, whatever ends up being, the Rams somehow just implode. The top 15, top 20 pick. You could essentially then maybe trade those 2 picks and go get a proven quarterback, a young quarterback, maybe a Tua. I'm not saying I would do it, but that's just something I've been hearing, something I've been thinking about. What do you think?
Well, I wouldn't give up 2 picks for Tua, that's for sure. Would I give up a second-round pick maybe for Tua? And I would entertain something like that. I would also entertain, using one of those picks for one of those quarterbacks. As much as I look at him right now, and I'm not talking about at number 1, but I'm talking about with one of those Rams picks or the top pick in the second round. If you're sitting there, and even though none of them sound like, who's the guy from Liberty? Willis?
Yeah, Malik Willis.
I mean, if he's sitting there and the Lions look at him, they think, it doesn't mean if you take him, just say at 25 with the Rams pick that you get, and you bring him in and, you give him next year. You don't have to start him right away because you have Goff. You bring him along. You know what you have. It doesn't mean that you can't go right back and go quarterback next year. So, I don't have a problem with them going after a QB. I would at number 1 overall because none of those guys seem like they're worthy of that. But what we've seen in the last few years, I mean, you just keep throwing whatever you can, resources and everything else. If you get the right quarterback, you're good. That's why those teams that have been going after Rodgers and Russell Wilson, and the same thing with Deshaun Watson, it's like it usually doesn't matter when you boat load and get all that if you get the franchise QB. So I don't mind taking a lottery ticket on Willis or Corral, or even the Pickett.
if I'm the Lions, I don't think I'd use either of those first round picks on a quarterback. Maybe you come around second round, third round, you take a guy who's a little bit more like, risky, I guess. And then if you're talking about trading your picks away, I'm not sure. I guess it depends on who's being shopped around, who's available. I want to bring up Racidi's most recent comment. He's giving me hell for insulting the Lions team. He's saying they got strong running back in Williams. Yes, he is good. He's not Swift though. He's a good bruiser back. I love the guy too. He's hilarious, but he's not what DeAndre Swift is. And your receivers, they're not good. They wouldn't start on any other team in the league. It's like somebody's got to be getting the receptions. Someone on that team is getting yards. And it just so happens that these are the guys they have. And yes, they show flashes with a couple of like deep plays or, a nice route. But overall, they're just not that good of players.
Super Raciti likes the Lions, and he likes the who are we talking about here? We got Khalif and who's the other guy that just had it with the Rams from last year?
Oh, Josh Reynolds.
Yeah, so Reynolds and Khalif over Justin Jefferson. Here we go. Yeah, that's what we're talking about, right, Raciti? I don't know. Raciti's just having fun, I think, with this.
The Lions, my bold prediction, the Lions are going to wait till 2023 and get Bryce Young from Alabama.
Fourth rounder for Trubisky. I don't.
Absolutely not.
Who wants Trubisky?
He signed he's on a 1 year deal.
Amon-Ra St. Brown. That's who Raciti's saying he'll take him over Adam Thielen. I don't know. Would you like Adam Thielen or Amon-Ra St. Brown? Pete.
I'm going to say Adam Thielen, especially because he's on my fantasy team right now. And
hey, I like, what? Brown's not even the best Brown brother. I'll take Equiminius over Amon-Ra right now.
Look, I'll admit some of the receivers have done better than what we expected them to do. And it's been like, all right, they showed up, they played hard, but again, none of them were that good.
Well, coming in, they went with Tyrell Williams and Perriman. Those are supposed to be their two top guys, and neither of them, I don't know, Perriman didn't touch the field at all. Williams got hurt in the first game, I think, or whatever. Maybe it was the exhibition game. I drafted him on my fantasy league team thinking, hey, that didn't last very long. That wasn't very good. All right, we're going to turn the page. We're going to be here all night long. That gets us to Chapter 3. Where that does give us to some college hoops. Pete, we're going to talk with you in a chapter or two. I know you got some studying to do, and you got to work on your presentation here for the picks in Chapter 5. So, yeah, Michigan hoops. They go down to North Carolina. They lose by 21 points. There's only a 2-point game at the half, Adrian, but how concerned are you about the 4-3 start for Juwan Howard and the Wolverines?
To be honest with you, Dennis, everybody is pressing the panic button right now on this team, and I'm just gonna tell everybody just classic Aaron Rodgers line: relax. Juwan knows what he's doing with this team. Let's start here. They brought in a number 1 recruiting class for 2021. Some really talented guys. Brought some veterans back. It feels like Eli Brooks has been there for 10 years. But they're starting 2 true freshmen in Caleb Houston and I can never say his name right. Diabite, which he was looking good last night. Showed some flashes, showed some athleticism. The problem I'm having right now is the play of Devontae Jones right now. He's shooting 42% and averaging almost 3 turnovers a game. They have to be better with the ball movement and getting everybody involved. But the biggest key is they're not running their offense through Hunter Dickinson right now, who I believe was a preseason Big Ten Player of the Year, maybe along with like a Jaden Ivey or a Matt Edey from Purdue. But everything needs to start from Hunter Dickinson out. So once they start getting him the ball and being more aggressive, I feel like they'll flow better. They're just trying to figure out how they're going to play with each other, and then playing some of these teams that they play, they've been a little overwhelmed. It seems like the Seton Hall loss was not the worst loss, but they only lost that game because they did not shoot well from the field and did not execute late in the stretch. So those things you can improve on, such as not turning the ball over, making free throws, and just having a little more attention to detail. I think they got so hyped up this season that they're realizing like they got to really come to play. And last night the game was close for a minute until Caleb Love hit that 3-pointer to take the lead going into halftime, and then after that it just imploded on them. And so it's gonna start Saturday when they play San Diego State at home. But look, Dennis, they got 6 games for the rest of this month. You got San Diego State at home, then you go to Nebraska, then you play Minnesota, squeeze in 2 Big Ten teams. They can beat both of those teams. You got a Southern Utah, a Purdue, Fort Wayne, and then go to at UCF. This, I believe, they'll go 6-0 this month, and they'll start turning the page and really getting ready for Big Ten play.
Yeah, if going into the season, I was like, hey, the ceiling is the championship, the Final Four. They could win the Big Ten and all that. But you know what? They, out of the 6 freshmen and then the newcomer, Devontae Jones, like, out of everybody, I was expecting, Brandon Johns to be better coming back as a senior. He is he's underperformed. Devontae Jones, I was expecting him to be like a bigger Mike Smith, who was at point guard, was also a transfer last year. And Devontae Jones, until he scored in the second half, he hadn't scored like a game and a half. He's creating too many fouls. He's not shooting. He can't even. He's a really good free throw shooter, and he can't shoot free throws with Michigan. So gigantic concern, at point guard. I think besides Eli Brooks and Moussa Diabate, I'll make a case that everybody's been a disappointment here. They need Caleb Houston. When you come in and you're a top 10, recruit, and you're a shooter, they really needed him to step up and be a volume knockdown shooter, and he hasn't been. So I don't know. They're not a top 4 team. I don't know. They're not going to be a top 25 team after this year. I know if I sit here right now, I would just hope that they could make the tournament. But you know what? There are a lot of young moving parts here. They can get a lot better, but they don't have a lot of shot makers. And they might have to be like Michigan football running the ball. It might have to be Moussa Diabate down low and Hunter Dickinson down low. And, forget shooting threes unless you're, Caleb Houston or Eli Brooks. But there is a lot of time. I mean, they got a lot of games to play here, but it's just been a real rough start for them. That's all.
Right now, what would you, on a scale of 1 to 10, what would be a number for you as far as panicking wise?
I'd put it at a 7.
7?
I'm pretty panicked. I think Devontae Jones, we've seen him enough here. Like, is he going to come in? I mean, you start, you got to have a point guard, and he's got to be able to score. And, Zeb Jackson's been sick, but, there was going to be a buffer there. Frankie Collins just is a true freshman. So, you need Kobe Buffkin. He didn't play at all last night.
What's up with Zeb Jackson? Because that's all I've been hearing is he's sick. Like I haven't really seen him that much, and he was a big time recruit coming in. So
yeah, well, I think what, I don't know if it was. They said it wasn't COVID, but things that can knock you down for a little bit, like flu could not. You would think that he would be back by now because it's been a long time. So I don't know. You start thinking of things, other things that can. Like mono or something like that. Those things happen. Like they haven't come out and said, yeah, well, he's, has something like that, but it's been long enough where, because it's not COVID, that you're, thinking that, that you'd at least see something from him by now, but, they haven't. So, yeah, I'm concerned. I mean, concerned in terms of like this team, being the team that's going to win the Big Ten. Like, I might even be higher than that. Concerned about making the NCAA tournament. I still, I'm not ready to say that, they'll be lucky to make the NIT or anything like that.
Yeah.
They've got a long way to go. And I think Juwan Howard and his staff are excellent. So, he's you got to battle here when you get a bunch of new faces and throw a lot of different things out there. This is why you get paid the big money to be a coach. Get out there and find the right combinations.
He just got that extension, so he had to show us something. But if Devontae Jones, I just looked and he's shooting 62% from the free throw line. So that's not going to cut it, especially when you get into Big Ten play. And playing against some of these physical teams of Michigan State or Purdue, Ohio State, Maryland. So they got to pick it up a little bit. And if some of these guys cannot get it together, Juwan may have to cut the rotation a little bit and get the guys in there who are going to play. So instead of trying to play 9-10 guys, this is a time right now where they got to experiment and figure out what lineups are going to work best and who's going to get majority of the playing time. And if some guys are butthurt about it, then it just is what it is. But he's got to clean this up and get it together. And I have every absolute faith in him that he'll figure it out. So give him till the end of this month, and then we'll really see. But on a panic meter, I'll give him a 6 right now. just because they haven't looked impressive even in some of their wins, even against Tarleton State. I didn't even know that was a D1 school, Dennis, and they just don't play with any aggressiveness, or they don't, when they get up, they don't keep their foot on the gas. It's just kind of like they let teams hang around.
It's only been a D1 school for a minute, like a year or two. I didn't know either. I had to look it up. Like, I would have guessed they were from like South Carolina or something, not from Texas. All right, we do have the people are trash talking each other on the feed. We got
they're going at it.
But Sideshow Raj, who is with us on Tuesdays, and he'll be back this Tuesday, asked about the Pistons. It was over and under 25 at the beginning of the year. I bet it, and I bet the over. I have regrets on that. If I could pull that bet right now, I mean, this is an under. Like, they're playing the Suns tonight. They're not going to win that game, but they got 4 wins. I mean, they're at the bottom of the league right now. Raj, I think they'll be lucky to get to 20, right?
I would have took the under on that. The start of the season, they looked pretty good. They just something needs to be done. There needs to be some sort of change, or some sort of just a little bit of change. Troy even needs to figure out something, because these parts are not working. And Sadiq Bey has played horrible basketball this year. His team is not competing like I've seen them competing last year. But I would definitely take the under 25.
Me too. All right, it's just I think we're going to get some bitterness coming up here in this next chapter. So David and Rositi going back and forth, I think you might see some of this coming up before we get to chapter 4. We do want to thank our presenting sponsor, and that is CashToBitcoin.com. You want to get in on that cryptocurrency, check it out. Check out what other ATMs. It's Cash, the number 2, Bitcoin.com.
All right, we are getting into chapter 4, everybody. Dennis, we're gonna talk about the MLB lockout. Dennis, I'm gonna let you lead this one off a little bit with the MLB lockout. I got a couple of strong thoughts I would like to address concerning this, but
well, I think the question is just how bitter are you as a fan that, it's come to this. I mean, you had all these signings, the Tigers with the Javi Baez, and all of a sudden, you get to late last night and you've got the commissioner. He comes out and says, hey, that's it. We're going to put this mechanism in to see if it's going to get us anywhere. And he comes out and Rob Manfred says, lockout for the first time since 1994. And if you didn't think that it was real, you start going online and you go to MLB sites, like you go to the Tigers site and you want to see like, hey, what's the roster look like? When's opening day? And everything says to be determined. And they don't have any of the guys' names on there. They got some video from, Gibby and 84 up there. Like, but they've got 3 months to figure this out. There's nothing good that's going to come of this. In the meanwhile, they're just going to get trashed in the media. So, but that's what they've got going for them over the next 3 months, and that's even if they get it going.
Yeah, my thing is right now, baseball has a marketing problem and they have an image problem. So they're steering away a lot of fans. If they happen to mess this up so bad and fumble the bag that they miss another season, this could really turn a lot of fans off, especially the younger generation. The older generations still love baseball, but it's been harder to reach my age group and a little younger, like Gen Z and things like that. But the problem is, I won't really start freaking out about it until maybe right around the Super Bowl. But I think the players are really gonna stand strong on. They're gonna stand strong on this and ask for to be treated better, because I think these baseball owners are probably the worst owners in sports, especially the small market teams where they don't give their markets the ability to win. They act like they want to win, but you're having payrolls of $39 million, $40 million. I get it, the Rays have been successful at it. Even Oakland's been successful. But let's be clear. Pittsburgh's not trying to win. Miami's not trying to win. Cleveland let go of Lindor because they didn't want to pay him. They need to do something to where they floor price it and make it to where a team should be able to have to spend. There should be a cap on. You should have to at least spend this amount of money so you can show the ability to compete, because it's so easy to tank in baseball and they keep doing that, and it deters a lot of people away from being able to ability. And I could keep going on a rant about it, Dennis, but just my initial thoughts on it. Like, the teams need to show the ability to try to win, because it's going to turn a lot of fans off.
I think you've hit the main point there. Like there's a lot of different things you talk about, like, pace of play and all those things, but this is an economic issue. And I'm sure the players would love a floor of 100 million.
Absolutely.
That would be great for them. But on the other side, they do have to figure out with the big teams, like with the money that they generate from their TV contracts, like, it's the have and have nots. They do have that luxury tax, and every year you go over it, at some point it becomes punitive where you just can't do it. So I like that idea. The main part about this is you go back to the beginning of the pandemic, they had a real opportunity there for an entire month, like 4th of July, to get this thing going when the country needed them the most. And, they basically just put up their finger. They gave it the Eli Manning, like on the Manning cast there. And, I don't forget that. And a lot of sports fans don't either. And the main thing where I might feel like they could get something going and have some kind of middle ground is if they didn't have Rob Manfred and if they didn't have Tony Clark. I think Rob Manfred acts like, he's a little bit too arrogant. I don't care that he's not a baseball fan or anything else, but, he had his crack at this last time. I don't have any faith that he's going to be able to get this done. And Clark's the same way. When you get in a position like Tony Clark, all the guys are like, they're just going to run over you. And, you got to stand firm. They need to get somebody else in there. They need to find two guys that know how to make a deal. These two guys don't. They've already demonstrated that just, a year and a half ago. So I'd feel better about the economic issues and all those things. And it's not just April 1st. They got to get it going. They need a month or so run up with spring training and everything. So they've got 3 months to get this done. And, if they go ahead and cut their own throat, it'll be really sad to see them do that. But I don't have any faith that they'll be able to get this going by opening day. But, the one thing about baseball is they don't need 161 games. Like we already saw with the pandemic, they can play 50 games, and come up with something here. So there's no urgency here to create a deal. And when I got to hear Max Scherzer talking about, we got to really do something for these small market teams and everything. And he's signing a 3-year, $120 million deal. It's like, why didn't he sign, a 3-year, $40 million deal with the Pirates? Like, come on, Max. Like, he's not doing. I don't hear any of the guys that come out there that make any. I want to hear somebody come out and say, look, we just need to do everything we can, for the fans and make sure that this happens. They're all saying a bunch of stuff and, acting a different way. So they'll get a lot of bad press and they deserve all of it.
Tony Clark needs to catch a lot of this smoke coming his way because he does not do a good job in representing the players. I've heard a lot of players complain about how he doesn't listen to their issues, doesn't care. I don't know when his contract is up, but he has to go because he needs to be the voice of reason. Like the NBA has the best players association with Chris Paul leading the way and getting things done. So that shows a model for where you can succeed. But like Rob Manfred is just every time I hear him talk, he's just so nonchalant about everything. Oh, have no worries, and that's a big thing with baseball. They need to have a sense of urgency. Like, just let's get this done. Like you said, Dennis, this could have been done. This could have been taken care of a long time ago, and now you're just putting yourself at risk and losing more money. And even when you were talking about the revenue thing with like such the Dodgers with their network and the Yankees getting the Yes Network, some of this revenue needs to be pumped into like maybe some kind of pool to where you can spread it out to even help, because the Dodgers and the Yankees and Astros and the Cubs, those teams are always going to make bank. So, but it's just a thing that we got to watch out for. And if baseball is not careful, they'll completely just destroy any hope of credibility with their fan base.
Yeah, well, 94 took a big chunk out of their fan base. That was a hell of a long time ago. And this is the first one since then. Paul's saying, go blue. He's got a question about the lockout. Players should not work out because they will be at risk and they can't work out at the club. Fitness and injury off-site issue, it could affect their future contract. Yeah, I think the point here is that, when they're locked out, they can't go to the facility. They can't work with the team trainers. And that is an issue, when you think about the development, especially of the younger players here, especially after what they had to go through during the pandemic. So it's a good point. I mean, the Tigers have Riley Green and Spencer Torkelson and stuff, and they got to go out. Luckily, they have their own trainers. They got enough money. They can get things going. But yeah, I mean, it does. It stunts their growth. It hurts the game. There's nothing good that comes out of this anywhere. It's a big enough pie that if they had two guys there that you trusted that could come through and get something done, for all the bad things with Roger Goodell, he always gets a deal done, at the NFL, and they get out there and play. They need a commissioner that gets out there and gets them on the field, and they need a players rep that does the same thing and that they're able to find a deal. And I know they know this, And I know it's just going to be a lot of yelling and screaming. I don't think we're going to be doing a lot of yelling and screaming over the next 3 months until they actually find a way to get back in there and get a date for spring training. And then we know when the pitchers and catchers are going to report. And then we know when there's going to be an opening day. Until then, I think people out of sight, out of mind, and everybody's sick of them.
Real quick, I got one quick question, Dennis, before we end up moving on to our next segment. So, with the Tigers signing Javi Baez, how do you feel about this? I was a big-time Javi Baez fan when he played for Chicago, but over this last year, what he did in Chicago, I didn't like, and then some of the antics he did when he was in New York with the, giving the fans, he strikes out a lot. He's a lot of flash, and sometimes he doesn't give you that consistency that you need. That's just my take on it. But they needed to do something. I rather would have seen Carlos Correa, in my opinion. But,
Well, Carlos Correa would have been this. He would have been a home run. He would have been everything the Tiger fans wanted. There would have been like a party in the streets all the way up until they actually had, let's say there wasn't any lockout. There would have been tickets. Everybody would have been excited about the season. Everything would have just been like how we're talking about Michigan right now. The sun would have been shining and everything would have been great. Now, but winning the off season, is important like that, especially for this franchise over the last 5-6 years that have been downtrodden. We've been waiting for this. And the other part about that, we knew his dad would have delivered him. So there's that part. This is going to be a big moment for Chris. The other thing is that this was the year of the shortstop, and that's what the Tigers needed. And, they had Seger. There was Story out there. And of course, Correa. So you're working on your fourth or fifth best guy over here in the year all time of the shortstop. None of that makes you feel good if you're a Tigers fan. Having said that, Baez is not half bad. It's just that he's in with all of these other guys that are better than him. And you know what? Looking at his numbers, you're right. He strikes out a lot. He's also super streaky. Like he'll go out there and put up an MVP type season. Then he'll go in like a 2-month prolonged slump. And because, he had some issues with those Met fans, and because he's not Carlos Correa, he gets to Detroit and starts out with a month or two and is not playing well. People will be all over him. So it'll be good for him to start out on a hot streak and kind of endure the fans here. But, it can work. I think it's in baseball terms, I would put a double, ground rule double.
I'll take that, yeah.
You want a home run, but all things considered, when you're talking about, people wanted Correa, you just have to deal with it because that you haven't. It feels like even though they coughed up the $160 million, it feels like they went cheap, and it feels like they lost the offseason with all those big names out there. And he actually could be all right and work out for him. So, they have not won the offseason. I know they have this with the lockout, so that just takes it down further. Good question. Good question there, Adrian. Good thoughts.
That's real quick. I'm just going to say this. That's my problem with them. They know the situation, and they know Chris Ilitch knows that their farm system has been atrocious over forever. As long as I can remember, they've been terrible. So the fact that you have to spend the money to be able to get the results that you need. So they've notoriously always went pitching. Positional players have not been the greatest thing, but like whenever this lockout ends, I just want to see Chris Ilitch show an ability to want to win because he's going to have to spend the money. So I don't want to hear that he doesn't have it because he definitely does.
Yeah, David saying Derek Jeter would be a new commissioner. Like he's a big name for sure, but he's been a terrible owner for the Marlins, and he's been cheap. So I'm not sure. Like, and Manfred's not a baseball guy. Like I don't know if if you threw him a baseball or threw him a basketball, if you'd be able to identify which was which. So. But you know what? Bud Selig loved baseball, and everybody hated him too. So I don't know. The deal is get somebody in there. You can have Adrian Myers in there, and if Adrian's able to get a deal, then everybody's going to love him. If Adrian's in there drawing a line in the sand and talking about how great he is, everybody's going to hate him. So I don't know. Jeter's just a big name.
His contract is up in 2020. It runs through 2024.
Get both of those guys out now. That's where I'm at with them.
I agree.
Let's get picking Penn State Pete in here, and it is time to make some selections, Pete. Do we have any kind of records that how I've been stomping everybody over these last couple weeks?
I haven't updated the records yet, but
okay.
Adrian was definitely a couple of games ahead of us. Last week.
Let's go.
I got to get the add on this week's and last week's, and we'll get like a nice little display up here, a little podium or something. But all right, yeah, let's get into the picks. So we'll start off with college football, and then we got chapter 1 topic. We got Michigan at Iowa. Right now we got Michigan minus 10.5 favorite, kind of big. So Dennis, let's go to you to start off.
Yeah, I'm looking at this game here. Most of Michigan's games this year, you think about their bigger games, it was just 14-13 at the half, 7-6 against your Penn State Nittany Lions. Going back, I'm looking at some 13-10 against Wisconsin. There have been a lot of close games at the half. And the way Iowa plays, run the football, just take it nice and slow here. And I think Michigan's going to try to do the same thing. I think it's a real low-scoring first half. I might look for the first half over and under and bet the under on that. But I think Michigan will be able to tack on a couple in the fourth quarter, and I like Michigan to cover that 10.5. I like them 27-14.
All right, Adrian.
All right, well, this is going to be a tight one in the first quarter. I think Michigan is going to try to find their way. The same thing they did against Ohio State, run the football with Sean Haskins, Blake Corum, and even get Donovan Edwards involved in the passing game. Michigan pulls away in the second half. They cover this 10.5 points. Give me 31-13 Michigan.
Wow, big one. Yeah, I think if Michigan does what they did against Ohio State and they go down first and score first and get ahead early, they'll run away with this game pretty easily. But even if they don't, and it's it's a bit closer going into halftime, I still think Michigan ends up pulling away with this one. I mean, they're coming off the biggest win of the season against Ohio State. They're riding high. I think they'll take care of business and cover the spread here. All right. Next one, we got Pitt at Wake Forest. We got the Heisman guy trying for the Heisman with Pitt's quarterback, Kenny Pickett. So right now, Pitt is -3. So Adrian will go to you for this one.
I'm going to go with Roland, Kenny Pickett-Smith, maybe a future Pittsburgh Steeler. You give me Pitt and the 3. They'll cover. They'll win. Wake Forest plays no defense.
Yeah, I'm with you. Best passing Pitt Panther since Dan Marino. The Pittsburgh Steelers, I think, are probably eyeballing him here.
Mm-hmm.
I like Pitt to win this game by double figures.
Yeah, I like Pitt too. Don't forget about that. That pass rush has also been really good this year. On top of a great quarterback, I think they got this. And then finally, the big game. We got Georgia and we got Alabama. Georgia's got -6.5, although we know they've struggled in the past against Alabama, losing the last 6 games. But they're the favorite this time. So, Adrian, why don't you start us off?
All right, well, now these two teams kind of remind me of Michigan and Ohio State in the sense of Kirby Smart has been dominated by Nick Saban at every chance that it's had to play. So I think this is just the year where these teams finally get over the hump and parity sets itself aside. So give me Georgia and Kirby Smart finally pulling off a win against his former colleague and Nick Saban. Give me Georgia by a touchdown. This Alabama team has struggled all year. They've been playing it close, and I just think Georgia team is dominant, and this is not the immortal Alabama team we're used to seeing. So give me Georgia.
Dennis.
Yeah, I like the dogs here too. Most of the time you get a big blowout on these championship Sundays. I know Alabama's usually the one doing the blowing, but, this time around – the dogs here, even though they already have a secure spot, they want an undefeated season. They really want to, make this. Plus, they're at home in Atlanta. I think that's a factor here. I know Tide fans will try to invade, but I think, you're going to have a big dog crowd. And, I like Georgia to win pretty big here.
Yeah, I like Georgia big too. I mean, that defense is just ridiculous. I mean, only 5 of their 12 games has their opponent gotten double-digit scoring, which is just absolutely insane. So, again, I'm going to follow suit with you guys. Give me Georgia. Give me the points. And let's move right on to the NFL. We're going to switch the music.
Let's do it.
All right. Starting off, we got
Adrian's got that music for you.
We got the Vikings. We got the Lions. 1 o'clock.
Woo!
They got a big spread. They got -7, and I never get the Lions spread right. I mean, we know they're going to lose, but I can never predict if they're going to cover or not. So I'm going to go last as usual, but let's start off with Dennis on this one.
The Lions are very hard to pick. You know what? I remember the first time they played at Minnesota, I took one of those alternate lines and laid 16.5. trying to and then picked all the guys for my fantasy league, and it ended up, being a field goal at the end. But then I had the Lions to win outright against Cincy, and I had them winning outright against the Eagles, and I just took it, smack right in the face there. It's been terrible. So it's hard to pick the Lions. Having said that, I think this is a game being at home. I know they don't have Swift and everything, but I think they find a way to at least keep it close. I think the Vikings will win, but I'm going to take the 7 points.
I'm going to be real plain and simple here. Vikings roll easy by 2 touchdowns. Wow. 28-14.
All right. I mean, the Lions kept it close the first time. Now they're in Detroit. 7 points is too much for me. I like Recedes receivers to show up. I like the Lions to cover the spread.
Okay.
There you go. Look at this. And speaking of Super Recedes, he's making his pick right now. He likes the Lions to win it outright. There it is.
All right.
Recedes, I'll put 2 pizzas on the Vikings straight up if you want to do that.
No doubt.
I'll get a pizza on that as well.
Let's see what he says. He's got a couple minutes here. We've got a couple more games to pick.
All right, the game that I don't want to ever just happen at all this week is the Ravens and the Steelers. I don't want to – I'm too stressed for this game. I got too much going on to worry about this. But the Ravens have -4. Adrian, how do you think the Steelers are going to do?
I'm going to go with the Ravens, unfortunately. Baltimore is going to get after Ben Roethlisberger with that nasty pass rush they have. It won't even be close, I believe. I think the Steelers have just totally flatline with Big Ben at quarterback. So give me Baltimore to roll.
Yeah, this is normally one of those the games that you watch because of the rivalry, and you just love doing it. Ravens coming off that bye, Steelers coming off getting smacked around. I like a nice rested Lamar Jackson against a banged-up Steelers defense. I like the Ravens big.
Yeah, look, if TJ Watt was playing, it would be a whole different story. I mean, that man plays hard against Baltimore, but he's not. If he was, I might take the Steelers to cover, but because of him being out, I'm going to take the Ravens to win and take the points. Hate to say it, but Steelers look ugly this year.
Sideshow Raj, round or deep dish really quick?
I'll go deep dish.
I'm round.
All right, last game we got. This one's interesting. For the division right now, we got the Pats and we got the Bills Monday Night Football. Pats kind of came out of nowhere. The Bills were good on Thanksgiving, but they've been struggling a bit throughout the rest of the year. Bills are holding -3. Let's turn to Dennis to start off.
All right, first of all, before we do that, Recedes, who owes me 2, I'm putting my 2 pizzas up and he would get 1 in return. So you have to give him 2-1 on the pizza line, on the dough line. I'm willing to do that. So
I'm willing. All
right, you get a Lions win, Recedes. You'll get 3 pizzas. If not, you'll owe me 3. So there you go. All right, I like the Pats. I like the Pats in the Sunday night game.
All right.
Which I think is this is the best game of the NFL week in my opinion. Division rival. I know Patriots are riding a 6-game winning streak right now, looking phenomenal. Mac Jones has been playing well. Defense has been playing phenomenal. But give me Buffalo in the 2.5 points. Josh Allen and company will win this game at home in Orchard Park. They'll come to play. Stephon Diggs will have a big game against J.C. Jackson. Give me Buffalo.
Yeah, I'm going to take Buffalo, too, on this one. I think they're finally going to get over the hump, beat the Patriots, and take back the division. Bills Mafia, baby.
Bills Mafia. We just need a table for you to jump on. All right, are those the picks, Pete?
That'll do it for the picks, yeah.
All right, great job. I know you have finals next week. You got to get to some studying, so we look forward to seeing you. Hopefully next time you'll see some happy Adrian Myers and Dennis Fithians.
Absolutely.
We'll talk with you next week. And Adrian, enjoy the weekend. Appreciate your time. Can't wait till you talk to you next week, and hopefully we'll be talking about college football playoff.
Appreciate your time too, Dennis. Let's go blue. I'm waiting for Saturday.
Yeah, me too. Everybody, thanks for watching. Thanks to Rob Diddy, who's under the weather as well, and we'll talk with you on Tuesday.